In a world where anything is possible, in a world where the normal and the paranormal reside, Almost Unbelievable brings to you the stories you want to hear, but fear to hear. Join us in the pit.
You have joined the Almost Unbelievable podcast with Cats and Ranty. I'm Ranty. Are you there, Cats?
I certainly am here, and really looking forward to today's podcast. I've got a feeling it's going to be a real meaty one.
It is, and the thing is, we already had a guest on who talked about a similar thing. It's to do with the occult today. Now then, are you aware of the occultish nature there, Cats?
I'm not an expert on the occult, but I have recently come across the term a tutelary deity. Have you heard that term yourself before?
I can't say I have.
Well, a tutelary deity was something that was taken very, very seriously. When we look back to old Roman times and Greek times, they used to try and, in a military setting, summon tutelary deities. They were seen as demons or entities that would benefit, that would protect, and obviously help you, certainly in a military setting, that would help you succeed. And it was taken so seriously that it was almost an everyday event, when these armies were at war, to try and summon these deities. It wasn't seen as crazy or weird. It was just something that was very much accepted.
Well, today's guest is going to tell a very similar story, from what I can tell at least anyway. He's told me that he has tried to summon some of these, what you could quote as deities. So we shall see. And with that, we're going to introduce today's guest. Today's guest is called Joe. Are you there, Joe?
Hey, yeah, I'm here. How are you guys?
Yeah, we're doing good. Cats, are you doing good?
I'm always doing good, mate. Always doing good. And I'm looking forward to hearing these as well.
Me too. Right, okay, so we're going to stick ourselves on mute and we're going to let you take it away there, Joe.
All right. So this is a personal story from the paranormal that I actually lived through. And when I tell you that it's a living nightmare, that's like sort of like an understatement. It's beyond that. Like, all right. So ever since I was a child, I was always interested in the occult. I was the 8-year-old in the library in the occult alien ghost story section, right? And for some reason, I was always followed or I was always given somehow spontaneously these books on like witchcraft and summoning spirits and demons and whatnot, with these like long mythical enchanting names that I couldn't pronounce, right? So fast forward, I mean, throughout my childhood into my 20s and stuff like that, I continuously read any type of grimoire. Even the old English ones, I kind of became proficient in being able to decipher the meanings behind it, and I started realizing that there was a trend that it was sort of set up to throw people off, right? So when I discovered that, I figured that why should I just keep reading about this stuff? Let me start actually attempting to engage in a ritual. All right. So that debate within myself lasted for years, even though it probably wasn't in reality. But I was really into and still am deep into meditation, and I believe in like psychedelics and expansion of your mind and the capabilities of what you can find within yourself. But anyway, going back to the story of the of one of my stories that I want to tell you now, it started with just the books, a grimoire, right? I'm not sure if I should say the name of it because I wouldn't recommend on other persons going out there and attempting this unless you're really spiritually, mentally, even physically ready, and you've prepared yourself in a sense that you have no fear. And you're ready to accept it as a scientific experiment, right? And you're gonna not look at it as you're looking at it as an experiment and not as something to like scare you. This is not like for like spooks and like some little thing. This is serious stuff. All right. So I got the book, And one of the reasons that I wanted to work with this book was because it was in plain English. It was simple. It's modern. It's a modern grimoire, and it was taken from a lot of different source work that I read in the past. So it kind of all made sense to me, but in a way that I understood. I started reading the book. I read it first, and I was debating whether or not to actually proceed with the rituals. But then I started building up the courage, and I said, you know what, I'm going to look at this from a scientific point of view, and I'm going to see if this is going to work out for me, and if it does, what essentially, like, how far can I go with it? So I got the book. Inside of this book, it's like a ritual that you have to do on a particular day. So I don't want to give out the name of the book again, but so you work out each day, and you're working with a different planetary spirit, and I think they call it spirit or daemon in the book, right? Daemon, whatever, however it's spelled. I don't care, but it's a spirit, right? The way that they say it. So I got the book. I prepared all of the instruments. You have to get a table of practice. You have to have a wand. You have to have particular blends of incense, and not the crappy incense either. It should be something that is something that's like an offering, right? So you want to get the best of the best that you can. If you're gonna take this serious, then you got to make these sigils. And you have to have like a scrying medium. I use an obsidian mirror, a black obsidian mirror, and you set that up inside of this table of practice, right? The table of practice essentially is a triangle with certain, let's just say, magical names written around it. So I started. I believe that the way the book is set up, that you start on a Thursday, right? Because Thursday is the day of Jupiter, Jove, right? And it's a powerful opening spirit that will allow you to sort of gain, prosperity, and it's like the master, like a very strong, powerful spirit planet. It's one of the biggest planets, right? So I started the ritual, and one of the things that I didn't realize before starting these rituals, even though it's written and it's there, and any practicing occultist should know this, is you have to know how to banish energies that you invoke, all right, or summon, or whatever, however you want to put it. I know there's two different things there, but I mean, if you really think about it, it's really, really quite similar. So I invoked or summoned or evoked, whatever, the spirit of Jupiter. And while I was doing this ritual, something definitely changed inside of my ritual space. It was something that I can't describe, right? I don't know if it was a warmth, it felt like like a charge, like a if you rub a balloon against your hair and your hair sticks to it, it felt like that, and it came out of the blue, and sorry, I should have told you this before. What led me into this particular book was that I was doing a lot of meditation, and I figured that with altered states of reality, maybe you have you're drunk, or you smoke some pot, or whatever, you have some type of different state of being, you could meditate and get into like a different level. And I was doing that with alcohol, right? And I was using alcohol as a medium to get me into this sort of zone where I could meditate, and I could like have conversations that were coming from something else, and they say that I'm not talking crazy nonsense here. It's just the truth. Try for yourself. So in one of these conversations, I heard, I was asking, how can I build a better environment around me, and how can I get what I want out of life, and which is more knowledge and understanding of this particular type of subjects, and how much power you could bring about, and what type of power is it? Is it? I'm not here to hurt somebody or want to do evil things and whatnot. I just want to get myself up on a different level. So I heard Jupiter in my head, and it was clear as day, and it kind of like shocked me out of the meditation that I was in, because it felt like somebody was in a room. So anyway, that led me to do some research, and that's when I found that book. And then fast forward back to where I was at before, the ritual. So I did the Jupiter ritual, and I felt just the energy. It's like a static. That's what it felt like, but it was like a strong static. I felt good. I felt good. I felt good. I felt good. That day into the next day, because with this particular book, the manual tells you to do the rituals 1 week at a time, right? So this week I did Thursday, then in the following week I was gonna do like a Monday or a Tuesday or something like that. It didn't go in a row. Like it wasn't like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, And they recommend not to do the rituals all in 1 week because it's too much energy. So I was excited because I just discovered that it works, and I started to feel what the energy feels like. It's like you're creating something, but it's like, I guess it's like working out. It's not gonna all happen at once. You have to build it up. So, the following week, I did the next ritual. Maybe I think it was Mars. Tuesday, it was a Mars ritual, and it was just getting more intense. Mars is a battle planet. It's like the spirit is for like protection and it's just a strong spirit. So it made me like those. I remember after doing the ritual. Well, I feel a little funky right now, so the hair is coming out. But after doing these rituals, I felt the need to arm myself. I had to have something on me after I did the ritual of Mars. And each planet, after I completed the ritual, I did the scrying, I did everything. I felt the energies and the qualities and the what have you from that, the characteristics from that particular planet, sort of like possess me. I guess that's the best word I could use. And it went on like that. And then I completed the ritual, but I was afraid to do Saturday. All right, Saturday is Saturn, and it's a day of like death, or it could be a day of renewal, depending on how you look at it. But the way the book was written, it was more of like, you shouldn't do this ritual until you're like really been able to sort of control your the first 6 planets. And you understand exactly where you're fitting in, because you have to fit in, and the spirits actually have to get an attachment to you. So you're going to continue doing these rituals, and you're going to continue to offer offerings to them, the best that you can afford. You're not going to give them some gas station incense. You're going to give them like the proper resin, if it's frankincense, or myrrh or copal, whatever type of incense it is. But you have to get the best dragon's blood. You have to get the best that you can get. And then one of the things, going back to I just realized now that I skipped something. One of the things that most occultists should know, especially not dabblers, but people that are actually going into ritual not for flattery or just because, but it's because it's something that you've chosen to do. All right, is you have to know how to banish this energy. I can't repeat that enough. Learn how to banish energy. If you don't learn how to banish energy, you're gonna have a disaster. It's just waiting to explode, and that's what happened with me. I was creating all of this energy, and I wasn't allowing it to leave. I was allowing it to control me, and the banishing part, the aspect of it, I wouldn't do it enough. Like the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram is something that you should really know. You should be able to do that in your mind, astrally, in your temple there, just on command. You should know that. You should do this like twice a day, 3 times a day, or any time that you feel something is sort of attached to you. I wasn't doing any of that, and for some, I don't know why, And now that I look back, I'm just like it was like a really foolish thing not to do. So what ended up happening was that I had a lot of power in this room and a lot of energy in this room. And then everybody in my house was afraid of that room. It's like, my significant other would pass by the room and say, she feels the chills every time she goes by the room, and she had to close the door. And it was never like that, Our pets wouldn't go in the room anymore suddenly. I couldn't even, like, my dog would like sit outside the door and it wouldn't come in. And then I got into like ghost hunting and stuff like that. I was always into ghost hunting anyway, but I took out some of my equipment and I would always get really high EMF readings in there, and I could sort of trace out where the field was. And if you went into that field, you would feel that static. You would feel that it was there. It was a definite something there. I had a ton of occult grimoires, like, or just occult books and stuff like that. I mean, when I say a ton, I say like 40 of them, 50 of them. You know, I had a lot of Aleister Crowley's. I had like this whole library. I had, and everybody in between. A lot of Golden Dawn stuff, you know. So I put all this stuff into a trunk and I put it into my closet, and I put a lot of stuff over it because it started creeping me out. And then out of that closet, many times I would hear movement. Like there was just movement coming from that closet. Things would be bumping. It would sound like things were falling. And I had it kind of neatly organized because I worked from home. So that was like my office closet, right? Like that's where I had my files at, my paperwork and stuff like that. So I had to know where everything was at. And the trunk was in the bottom. Like I put everything on top of it because I was only working with the one grimoire, you know, the modern one. But even that one I had like in a particular corner, you know. But there was definitely something happening. All right. And then one day it was kind of warm here. I live in the southern United States, so it was warm. It was a warm night, and I remember cleaning. I was mopping, and my old condo had a sliding door, like a sliding glass door. You know, like when we had a screen patio, and I was outside on the patio, and you know, I was thinking about what's going on with the room. You know, it was starting to really get on me, and I should have been banishing, but I wasn't banishing. The energy just kept building up because I would still continue to do ritual, you know. And then, but it got to a point where it was just too intense and I couldn't deal with it anymore. You know, I used to walk around like a nervous wreck. It started making me very anxious, and I started getting health problems, you know, like suddenly I had like stomach issues all the time. You know, I would feel pains in my chest and my back, and I'm relatively healthy, you know, and then I would start having arguments with my family. You know, I have a daughter, a small. At this period, she was about 2, 3, and she was just starting to speak. And well, anyway, let's move back. Let's go. Let me go here, one step at a time, crossing the stuff off my list. All right, so the patio. After all this energy has been summoned and has been manifesting inside of this ritual room that I created, right, which was my office. I even felt no longer comfortable being inside of that room, but I knew that I had to complete certain rituals. And again, I wasn't banishing. I went out on the patio, and it's a 3-story building. And then I heard like the sliding door from a neighbor above me slam really hard. And it was the night. It was a still night, and it was like humid. It was hot and humid, and there was no breeze. I remember that. I was like, wow, I wish there would be like a nice little breeze or something. Then suddenly, after I heard that door slam, I felt a rush of air go right past me. Like it went through me, you know, and the blinds behind me, because we had these straight vertical blinds, and the curtain, it moved. And when that happened, I knew something. I brought something inside. Like something might have been from the energy that I was creating. Something manifested, and it ended up. That's how it entered my home. You know, it entered my home, and it's basically I allowed it in. I gave her permission to come in. You know, and I think having all of these grimoires as well, with all these sigils and all that, you know, these certain specific spirits, sigils just in your books is also like an open door. Even if you're not reading them, you just have them inside of your home. So I felt that rush come in, and again, I heard banging coming from the closet, you know, and that would freak me out. I was walking and living in a nervous wreck, and I didn't want to tell anybody else in my household what was going on. So that night, we had this like a fence where I would keep my dog, like one of the little small wooden gate. I could keep her, like I used to keep her from going into the other rooms where the carpet is, so she wouldn't go on the carpet. If she had to go or whatever, she'd go on the tiles, and it's easy to clean up the tiles. So the gate was like on a hook on a wall. There's no way it could come off, you know, like it wouldn't just fall, you know. It was like a proper hook. It's been there. We lived there for a few years. We never had an issue. Suddenly that gate fell, and it fell with force. And I was thinking to myself, how did that gate fall? And it scared my fiance. It scared her. Well, she got up and she was like, what was that? And I was like, it's the gate. I was mopping, and I didn't put on the hook right, which is not true. I was just telling her that so she wouldn't worry. But I knew already that it was something different. So I went into the hallway, the walkway there, the little hallway, and that hallway actually led to my office. And I put the gate back on the wall, and I told the energies in my mind and just forcefully to stop it, stop the crap, like just knock it off. But I wasn't banishing, but I was trying to be firm. And then I went into the bedroom, right, and we had an ensuite. So there was ensuites. We had the bathroom in the bedroom, right, and suddenly all of the tooth, like where we kept our like my toothpaste and my toothbrush, the little thing that we keep it in, it all fell into the sink. Like I heard it fall into the sink, and that was just something too that freaked her out. And I told her again, I was like, don't worry about it, because I know why it fell. It was because I put it like, it was like sort of precariously like dangling over the sink because I was cleaning, and that was just my excuse again for her not to worry, because she doesn't like this type of stuff. And that's one thing that I've kind of always kept to myself as well. I'm like one of the in the closet occultist person. I'm not just out there just telling everybody my business. I do everything for like on a personal level. I'm not doing it for anybody else. But anyway, so the following weeks, which felt like eternity, right? Many things were happening. My daughter just started walking. So she couldn't open doors, so that was the way that we used to keep her in an area, and with the gates as well that we used for the dog, would keep her, we'd set up the gate so that she doesn't walk out or open up a door or whatever. Suddenly the doors would be opening, like she'd be in front of a door and the door would just open for her, and there was no way that she knew or had the dexterity to turn a knob and push the door or pull the door to open. So that was number one. I started noticing that, and my fiance noticed that too, and she was like, "It's really strange that the doors are opening. I don't feel a breeze." And I was like, "Yeah, but we probably didn't close it." I kept trying to push everything to the side, like so she wouldn't worry, but I knew that something was going on. And then the next thing that happened was my daughter would start cursing. She would say like mommy, daddy, and stuff like that, but then she would say like the F curse, out of nowhere, or she would say the B curse out of nowhere, stuff like that, and it was crystal clear. And this is like a 2-year-old child, you know what I mean? So I was like, oh my God, you know what I mean? Like this is something that's it's evil. It's not good. Whatever I've done is not good. It's not right. Or whatever came in because of the energy that I was manifesting without banishing it, it might have been calling it. Like maybe it felt it, I don't know. But like I said, that room had an energy, like it had a really strong energy. Due to the rituals that I was doing, and I was doing the rituals with intent, with will, like I wanted something to change, and it did change. My life did get it changed in a way that my life did get better. My jobs changed. Like I ended up getting more money, with the power of Jove with Jupiter, on Thursdays. I started carrying knives and weapons with me just in case, which actually turned out to be a good thing too, because I had a little situation where I just had to pull out my knife one time and somebody went away. Now, if I didn't have that knife, it wouldn't have happened like that. And then just in general, things were my love life, with Friday, with Venus was starting to, we were starting to, become more romantic again, like we were starting to new, because we did have some times while prior to this, it was a little bit rocky. After that thing came in though, which felt like for maybe it was about a month and a half or something like that, it was constantly, it felt like it was attacking me. Everywhere I would go, if I was home alone, I mean, it was just like it was like people walking around the house. Like people would be walking around, like literally, especially if like I mentioned, like if I was by myself. So it came to a point where I thought I was literally going crazy. This was a living nightmare, and I'm watching it, or like a horror movie, and it's real. Like this is actually friggin' happening to me right now. My baby's cursing. The doors are opening, things are falling. there's strange smells. There were strange smells, and I wouldn't say there were rotten smells, like you hear like in this. There were more like fruity smells, like just strange smells, like, I don't know. I don't want to sit here and say it was some Victorian age perfume or something like this, you know what I mean? But it was something different, but it didn't smell bad. And all of that almost made me go into like a state of what's that? Like a nervous breakdown. I almost had a nervous breakdown because I couldn't control it anymore. And then that's when it started affecting my health. I would start getting stomach aches and back aches and headaches and everything out of the blue. And at one point I felt that I had some type of illness that maybe chronic or even worse, and that I would have to go to the doctors and get myself checked out and stuff like that. But I started praying and I brought God into the picture. I brought some light into the picture, and through God I was able to start banishing the energy, and little by little it started dissipating. The doors would stop opening on their own. Nothing fell again, and little by little the tumbling in the closet would stop. I ended up giving all my books away, because at that point I was at a breaking point. It put me basically. It changed my inner workings of myself and my consciousness and the way that I perceive everything. It changed my relationships. It made me see how strong that power is that you can manifest. There is no jokes to this, and dabbling is not a good thing. If you want to read, you can read. If you start dabbling in it, be prepared for what's going to happen. It's good to have a guide, somebody that has experience in this. Now I have experience and I understand it, but it took me a long time. Again, this is a few years ago. I still, practice certain aspects of it till today, but there's a balance now. I could balance it because I understand the banishing part of it. But it was a life-changing situation. It just experienced the whole shebang was something that was. It gives me the hair sticks up right now, like on my arms, just thinking about that period of my life. And I would ask my spouse, I would ask her, if she felt or she noticed anything, like towards the end, towards when things were like sort of going back to normal. And she always said that she never really felt anything. She was just confused about why the doors would open, like that was it. Because it would that was just like a daily occurrence, suddenly, and anytime my daughter was in front of the door, it would open, so we started thinking it was her pushing it open, but I made sure that the doors were, that she couldn't open them, that they were shut properly. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I don't want to keep going on, but this was something incredible. Something that demonstrate to me that this is not a fairy tale. It's not a fantasy, and it's nothing to play with. And if you don't understand banishing, or you don't understand what you're getting into, it's better that you don't, unless you're really serious, 100% committed to it, and you have somebody that could sort of guide you in and tell you what you're doing, that teach you the steps to do it correctly, right? And that would be, taking everything bit by bit and learning banishing first. I guess it's like earning different belts in martial arts. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys and see what you guys thought.
Yeah, I mean, I've started watching this series actually on Netflix now. I've only just found Netflix, so I'm a bit of a Netflix noob. So I am catching up on a lot of these stories and stuff. And one of the things that I'm watching currently is a program called Once Upon a Time. Now, in that it says, and there's a guy that practices magic, and all the other people that practice magic too, they always say whenever you use magic always comes with a price. And I think what I've taken away from this, or from your experience at least, is that, okay, on the one hand, you asked to gain this knowledge and power by practicing these rituals. But on the other side of the thing, you were also given a price, and that price was all the other things that came with that knowledge, which was not detrimental, especially to you, but maybe to your family, because you felt that you had to lie a lot to cover up the tracks of what had been going on.
Yeah, I did, and it was mostly for her not to be afraid. I mean, our dog definitely noticed it, and after all this, when I was able to sort of control everything, she would come back into the room. But yeah, this is yeah.
Well, this is interesting because this is the second time we've had somebody on the podcast who talks about dabbling with magic, and it's a complete contrast to the experience the other guy brought in, and a complete sort of contrast to his take on magic and how it works, etc. So it's really fascinating for me having to listen to one, to listen to the other, and because yours seems to be based around a genuine sort of entity, sinister thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that it may not have been that, but I was just so inexperienced when I thought I was very experienced, because I've read so many of these grimoires and occult books, and I thought I knew what I was doing, but like it did, like the other guy said, it's sort of like it did come with its pros. I did, I got a better job, we got a better living environment. Not that it was all that bad, but it did improve. My relationships improved and stuff like that. But the relationships kind of fluctuate a little bit during that time. But doing the Venus on Friday, that ritual did, I definitely seen a change in that, and I could attribute it to doing these rituals and my wallet as well. But it did come with a price, and that price was it's scary. It taught me that this is something that not to play with. You're playing with fire. And this is real. It's like your soul. It's like it's real. That's the only thing I could say.
So I was just saying, I believe the last guest we had on that was a Wiccan, I believe he was, and he did these practices to, enhance his surroundings, to get a better job, to feel better in his life. But he didn't go and do what you did. It seems to me that you appealed to some books and some deities, let's say, and some very powerful, quote unquote, god-like deities, let's say, and so you went deeper than he did.
Yeah, it's hermetic magic. You're working with ancient spirits, powerful, hard to pronounce names. The more you do it, though, it's like you could hear the name in your head, the way it's supposed to sound, and it's not always like the way it's written, But that's also another thing that I learned as I went along. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. You continue, please.
Well, I was gonna say, after this has all sort of died down, and do you feel safe and distanced from it now, or does it still play on your mind?
I actually learned how to control it. I learned not how to control it, but how to balance it into my life, and into a way that I could live with what I. This is more than This is like it's not a hobby. This is like a something that I really admire. I love the cultish works, the writings. I love the mystery behind it. I love the riddles and how to solve them, and the way that they threw people off. So to just answer your question, I think that after having that experience, it just proved to me what I wanted to know, whether or not this is something that I could actually work, something I would actually work, and the answer is yes.
I think a lot of people that will listen to this podcast are probably going to say, well, why didn't you, at the first sign of something going wrong, immediately stop? And obviously leading on from that, the question is going to be, because this went on for quite some time before you finally decided to banish, that there was a time when you were happy to allow the things to fall in the house, the doors to be open, rushing past you, whatever it was, and the doors slamming upstairs, this wind rushing through you, all that kind of stuff that was going on, all this tricky stuff. Where a lot of people would have said, "Okay, enough now, right? Okay, there's a limit to what I can take," but you kept kind of pushing those limits further and further, to the point where your daughter was starting to swear and stuff like this, and you still carried it on. Was it were you in this kind of obsession sort of thing to fulfill whatever it was that you needed to do? Was it hard to let go of this power that you'd have suddenly got a hold of?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. It was incredible to witness the power that is actually there, that is around us, that we're not harnessing. That was number one. Number two was, again, it was working. There was a change in my life for the positive. The only negative was, it scared me because I wasn't prepared for the energy and for the power of what I was working with. This is something that you really have to no amount of reading or studying or anything like that will allow you to really grasp it unless you experience it. I guess like war, you could play war games all you want, or you could read books and history of wars, great wars, but you would never know what it felt like unless you were there. And that being there and experiencing that was enlightening. It was enlightening. It was incredible. It was fascinating. It made me obsessed, even though it scared me. But I think I would say it made me more nervous than scared, and that's the reason why I continued. Because if it did scare me, I probably would have stopped from like you mentioned straight away. Like I wouldn't wanted to continue something that was scaring me. I was anxious and anxiety. My anxiety was really high. I always felt shaky and stuff like that. But again, maybe I could attribute that to the energy that I was manifesting and not being able to control it. Yeah.
So I'm a believer in the paranormal, and Katz, the co-host, is more looking for a scientific answer. So I would say that perhaps you were being very reckless back then. Obviously you've learned from that and you've moved on. But if you was trying to answer it from a scientific perspective and say, well, was there a logical answer to this? Did I actually summon something, or was I actually just thinking that I was? Was there anything that you would say that, okay, I can explain this in normal without it being any kind of paranormal?
Like debunking it?
Yeah, if you had to try and debunk your own story, would there be something that you could try and debunk yourself?
I can't. There's nothing that I could. I wish. I wish I could say that. You know what? The reason that gate fell off the wall, off that hook, was because it was just hanging there. I didn't put it back on right, but that's not the truth. I wish I could say that the stuff that fell in the sink in the bathroom, was because of why I told my spouse, but that's not the reason. Everything was set up as it always is, and our place wasn't, it's not windy where we live at or anything like that. I can't attribute it to anything else. My daughter swearing, I can't debunk that. You know what I mean? Like I can't debunk the doors opening, in front of her, and the noises that I would hear, because the noises weren't just noises; they had vibration. You know what I mean? So you felt it, like if somebody was hitting the wall, like you feel the vibration and you hear the sound. So I can't. I wanted to debunk it. I want to say that, look, this is the reason why this is happening is because we live near like an electrical grid, or we have an issue with our electricity or something like that. But I would drag that EMF around the house trying to debunk it. And I always, I used to look at EMF meters as sort of like just a gimmick, like this is something that people are just trying to get money off of. I got more stories for you guys with like ghost boxes and stuff. Maybe we could do it another day. But this stuff was like, in my head, it was just like, I'm gonna get it because I want to be cool and have, the latest gadgets, et cetera, et cetera. But I was skeptical, right? But when I went in this room after all this and I started feeling all this energy in there, I could definitely trace and outline where the energy field was. It was like a portal, maybe, now that I think about it, because it wasn't in the whole room. It was like in the center of the room. and my altar where I was doing my work was in the east side of the room, so it was like in front of it, like where I would sit. You could, damn, now that's scary too. Now that I think about it, because that means that I was generating it, and possibly, who knows, maybe I open up a portal. I don't know what happened, and I really wish that I could tell you right now. You know what? The gate fell over because a dog jumped up for some reason. I don't know, but I can't. I don't know how to do it.
I said, I think, to the previous guest earlier today that when you speak to someone who has thought about what the possible explanations could be and is still racking the brain, that's when the story becomes interesting. And you've obviously done that. You've obviously thought, well, what could it have been? And you just can't accept that they're the answers because you've obviously lived through it and they just seem so unreasonable to you. And that's what makes a story fascinating. What could it have been then once you've ruled out those obvious things? And I certainly don't have an answer to it, but I think it's a brilliant story. It's been an absolutely fantastic one.
Oh, great! Thank you. I'm glad you guys enjoyed that. It's something that I'll never forget. I'll never forget this, and it's something that I could tell. I haven't told many people because, I don't want to spook people out. And again, like I'm not out here flaunting that I'm loving the occult or anything like that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it because obviously I had, like you could say, an obsession with it, like you mentioned, all my life, and it was sort of given to me, that like it was something that was not given to me, but it was like natural, it was like something that I just instinctively just sort of, it like pulled me to it. Nobody showed me, nobody taught me, nobody, I just went to it, and maybe they're right, some people are just born occultists, and I may be one of those persons, and this is what's piqued my interest, and this is what got me to where I'm at now. Speaking with you, relaying a story that is more hopefully like a warning to people. Yeah,
I would agree with that. A definite warning. My mum, she conducted I think a few, not many, but she conducted a few Ouija boards with friends. But she told me when I was very, very young, when she first told me about this, that you need to know how to open the seance or whatever it is that you do, and then how to close it as well. You have to do that. You can't leave the door open. So it's not like you could just do an Ouija board and walk away from it, because if you don't close that gate, then you are leaving it open for anyone to walk through or any entity to come back through. So you definitely have to know when to say, right, okay, door's shut, door was open for a while, but now it's closed. You can't come in. And she was very clear about that to me. And from what you've said, it seems to me like you left that door open for a very long time.
Yeah, I 100% did, and that's my warning to anybody who wants to do anything similar. The rituals, if you do them correctly with will and intent, something will happen. It could turn into a point where you develop relationships, and that's where I think I'm starting to get into now. You start developing relationships, and then you kind of don't need a book anymore, or you don't need anybody's guidance. They kind of guide you in a way of conducting yourself and conducting these. I guess you call them. I don't even call them rituals anymore. It's like more like just saying hello. It turns into something like that, but it doesn't happen overnight. Like again, my metaphor with working out. You're not going to become Arnold, and you work out for 1 week. It's not going to work if you're a fat guy or whatever. But you have to. If there's anything that anybody gets from this, including myself, because I have to remind myself a lot too. You have to banish energy. You have to do it. If you don't do it, it's like you're saying, you're just leaving. It's like leaving your door open in the middle of the ghetto, and just inviting whomever in, and you have no protection. You're just there, because basically you if you don't know how to banish, you have no protection. That's your protection. That's your spiritual, your soul, your environment, your everything. You have to banish. Across, in those movies, putting it up against like a vampire or whatever, all this little stereotypical crap. It's just that, Hollywood nonsense, you'll know, because everybody's unique, and you'll know how to do it for yourself. But there is a basic structure. The lesser banishing ritual with pentagram does work. You have to know that forward and backwards, I would say, before you really attempt anything, and you really have to put that into like use in your daily life. Because people, I'm not the only person that has experienced this, obviously, and there's people that are just inherently just bad natured, and they could use this energy once they create these sort of relationships with certain spirits to do harm. They may be doing more harm to themselves, without realizing it, but they're also sucking they're allowing that spirit to get stronger. Maybe maybe the spirit leached onto him, and whenever he's around people, nobody wants to be around him because it feels negative, because that thing is sucking everybody else's positivity, or their life force, or whatever it is. Whatever. You got like them psychic vampire people and stuff like that. It's probably not even them. It's something that they summoned, but they never banished, and that's why they you just don't want to be around. You just feel nasty being around them.
Well, is there anything you want to add to this, Cats?
Well, no, I was just going to say, I mean, it's been a great story. And it sounds as if there are lots of other things that we could even talk about on future podcasts. But what I'd love to do, now is the time of the show where me and Ranty kind of retire to talk about your story. And obviously, when you hear our opinions and you listen to the full podcast, we would love to have you back, not only for you to tell us more stories, but for your feedback on what we thought of your story, if you would be happy with that.
Yes, I mean, definitely, most definitely. I'd actually like to hear my story back to myself. Like I want to sit back and like listen to me tell my own story. Like, because I've told the story to other people, but I'd like to know what it sounds like to hear it. To see if my warnings are clear enough, and if I'm saying things just to make sure that I'm being honest and truthful. Like, I'm not sort of trying to embellish anything. I'm not trying to make anything bigger than it is. This is just my experience, and it really happened.
Well, what a wonderful story there. And it's definitely a warning. Absolutely, definitely a warning as far as I'm concerned. I'm sure Katz will have his own explanation later. But for now, I'm going to thank our guest, and thank you very much for coming on and telling us of your warning.
No, my pleasure. It was fun. Little, got a little sweaty over here and a little, hairs, just remembering that. But thank you for allowing me to, share my experience.
It's been a pleasure. I'm just going to defer to Katz here to give us his insight into what actually went on there.
Well, what I'm going to do here is different to what I normally do in a podcast. What I normally do in one of these podcasts is try and find a scientific explanation for what has happened. But I'm not going to do that today, because today's guest has come here to deliver a warning. And no matter what you believe is the cause for the events that you've just heard, I think it's really, really important to echo that warning, that dabbling with things like Ouija boards, dabbling in the occult, really does need to be stayed away from. For me, I would say there's a mental health issue there. I would say that if you're dabbling with something that you believe to be dangerous, you believe to be demonic, you believe is capable of doing you harm, then all you are going to be doing is putting yourself constantly on edge. I talked in a previous podcast about chronic anxiety, which has horrendous physical effects that you wouldn't associate with a mental health issue. We're talking about stabbing abdominal pains, diarrhea, headaches, nausea, the inability to sleep, sweaty, clammy hands all the time, real physical manifestations of mental health issues. So I would say for that reason, stay away from anything like that. And obviously, if you believe that the harm is caused by a demonic presence, then that's even more of a reason for me to say stay away from it. So I think they're going to be my closing words, Ranty. What about you?
Well, yeah, I'm just going to echo exactly what you said there about the ability to actually harness that power, so to speak. So in his case, it seemed that he was already a practitioner of the occult. Now, I'm not going to diss on practitioners of the occult here, because we have had guests on before who have told us that when done properly and conducted in the right frame of mind, they were able to actually harness some good from that. Now, whether or not that was to do with some kind of paranormal influence that was helping them, or whether it was just an altered state of mind that was able to give them what they perceived was a better life. So I'm not going to rag on them for that. But what I would say is that if you are going to dabble in the occult, you better be prepared for what's going to come. You better be prepared for what's going to come. And that's psychologically, mentally, all that. Because what was going on in the house, whether or not you believe it was paranormal, the fact that Joe allowed this to continue for a prolonged length of time without informing his close family things that were actually happening to them was, in my opinion, quite distressing. I have to say, listening to that. And I can understand it because I have seen some TV programs. I did allude to that in the chat with Joe about a TV program called Once Upon a Time, and one of the characters in that, he gets great power, and he gets to the point where he will do anything to protect that power. It doesn't care who he crosses, what he does. He just doesn't care. It's all about himself and the power. And it just seemed to me, listening to his story, that was a very similar thing, that once you've grabbed that power, letting go of it is really difficult. And if you're not prepared to take a back step and look at things as a whole and say, well, what's the balance of this power that I seem to be getting in some way against the effect that it's having on my family and my life, etc. If you're not able to weigh those up and say, yeah, the gains don't outweigh the negatives, then you're not practicing the occult properly. Now, I'm not a practitioner of the occult, never have been, but I know people that do it safely, and I just feel that he was untrained, he wasn't doing it safely, and as he said, he was definitely coming here to give a warning to people that unless you're prepared and ready to actually take on whatever comes your way, these things can lead to a very negative situation in your life for not just yourself but for other people that it may be affecting.
And I suppose when we talk about chasing power, we've all heard of what happened to Darth Plagueis the Wise, haven't we?
I haven't.
Well, Darth Plagueis the Wise became so powerful that the only thing he feared was losing power, which of course he did as he became older. But unfortunately, he taught his apprentice everything he knew, who then killed him in his sleep with a lightsaber, and that apprentice went on then to head the Republic. Which, sorry, I've got into Star Wars there. Anyone who watches Star Wars, it's a famous scene that they mock from one of the prequels. So you're not a Star Wars fan then, Granty?
I've seen the main 3 films. I haven't really seen them all, but yeah, I can see where you're going with this.
It's a very parodied scene where Emperor Palpatine tells the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise. But on a more serious note, like, we did have a Wiccan on a podcast not so long ago, and he had a very different approach to magic. And at the time, in my summing up then, I kind of give a very different spin on it than what I did today. Maybe I was a little bit harsh. The Wiccan that we had on in the past, he spoke about essentially using his rituals, his everyday rituals, to put him in a better state of mental health. He wasn't trying to summon anything for power. He was just putting in daily meditation practices, and whatever rituals he did, he felt put him in a better mental frame of mind. And it was his better mental frame of mind that made him more successful in life. And I think I remember at the end of that podcast agreeing and saying, well, you know what, there's nothing wrong with that. You do what you do to get your own mojo back. But I think his intentions with what he was doing are very different to what we've heard today. So I don't know, maybe every case should be taken on its merit. Who knows?
Yeah, and just a stark warning, basically, that if you're going to mess around with things that you don't fully understand, then, maybe you shouldn't be doing it. Maybe you should look for guidance somewhere. And I think the whole thing that this story reeks of is a guy that's come on to tell a story that's saying, hey, this happened to me. This is the effect that it had on me. Please don't go down the route that I went, because if you do, this thing could happen to you too. But at the end of the day, we don't have to dwell on that, because we have plenty of fantastic stories that are coming up soon. And if you want to partake in that, if you want to be a guest on the show, you can always find us on social media. We have all the links in the description. Maybe you want to be a guest, maybe you just want to support us on Patreon, whichever, where we do have videos and photographic footage of some of the stories that have already been told. Now then, Cats, are you getting a bit tired?
I am feeling a bit tired.
Maybe we should go. What do you think?
Let's do that, and we'll see everybody next time.
See you in the next one.